all my podcasts have clips. I go a little overboard. Actually, I definitely go head first overboard into how many clips I cut. It's all done in Premiere, and since it's already rendered, it's just kind of just cut, copy, paste into a new file, or not even sometimes a new file, so I can export via my in and out sequence. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to explain to you why I don't do a video intro anymore. I don't do our bumper, like 7-second thing. I just go right into the video. Explain why I do that. I'm going to add graphics, going to again about framing, size, position, colors, fonts, etc. Fading, timing, again, calls to action, because in these I'm going to add in, like subscribing on YouTube, subscribing on TikTok, stuff like that. And subtitles. I don't add subtitles to the full hour podcast because that would take forever to edit, and it would make the file size even bigger. And editing subtitles in a file that big slows down my computer, and I have a supercomputer, so I just don't do it. It's not worth it. But for clips and the shorts, I do. So I'm gonna get into how I do that on Premiere. Hopefully, that can help you. And I'm gonna show you how to export, and how to do YouTube Shorts for TikToks. Resizing the cuts back and forth because if Christian and I are talking, like if Christian has us on split screen and we're both talking, I just can go from
the left side,
the left side,
just move
and
it
I
over.
just double click, move over,
Yep,
and then it's on the right side. So I'll show you how to do all that, exporting and saving, and then we're pretty much done. So yeah, let's go to that, and we'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the clip one last time for this podcast. I'm going to show you how I cut clips. I'm going to show you how the different ways to do it. I'm going to show you subtitles and how I do it in for TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and regular YouTube clips. Without further ado, this might be a little bit long, but hey, we're going to do it together. So let's get started. This is actually the podcast you've been listening to, the full podcast. As you can see, I'm not done editing yet. This is where that clip is going to go in that podcast. So here is my very first clip. Do I need editing? That's the title of the video. And how I chose that, just, I listened to it. And see how these markers are here? That's what these are. Mark in and mark out. So what I did was I listen, I mark in for this beginning of the clip. And then when I mark in, you can see I got to cut it. So I'm going to use the cutting razor tool, cut. So when I hit this button, go to shift in, editing. So it goes right to the beginning. And then when I go to the ends, the end of the clip is about, very tongue-tied, but you know what I mean. Right there, I would add the clip, the cut out. Now, the reason I do this, obviously, is so I can just edit this one section, and I can export from this one section. I can also render from this one section. So I'm going to go to sequence, render into out, and when this is done, it's just going to render this one part. You can see the green moving a little bit. And there we go. The render is complete. Again, you can see this section right here is just green. So that is what is rendered. You can take this section and rename it. So, for example, I named this clip 1 because that's what's clip 1. But let's say I want to call it the title of the actual clip. Do I need editing? Clip. And there you go. And now from there, you could add in lower thirds. Like this lower third's already there. So I'm going to click this to make sure I export with it. And if you add tracks, the source in, source out also gets included. That's stuff for like rendering and exporting. So I can add in my lower third for my name. I can add in lower third for social handles. I can add in a lower third for Christian. I showed you how to do that in the last clip, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go straight to the export. Export. Now for this, you want to do range. You can do the entire source. But for this, it has to be source in, source out. And you can see on your timeline here, it's just that one section. And here's that clip again. You can choose the location. I'm going to choose a desktop. So, do I need editing? Hit save. The preset can just be custom, or you can do 1080p. It should be able the same way. You can just do match source. But for this, see how it's 736 megabytes? I actually want that to be less. It needs to be 500 or under. So for that, make sure you go to your video settings, do the drop down. It needs to be 500 or less, because if I upload directly to LinkedIn or directly to Facebook or directly to wherever, it needs to be under 500 megabytes, or else the site just won't take it. That's probably for budget reasons, but I don't know. And it's also to save storage space. You can just do this little trick. So you want to hit more. You're going to want to go down to where you see bitrate settings. Now, what bitrate does is pretty much it makes your video bigger. There's more bits in the actual video. But if you just lower this, it won't be too much. You want to make sure you do a 2-pass. So the target bitrate will be down to, no, it doesn't need to be 480. It can be a little up a little more. Let's just do 13. And that brings to 483. You know, if it's under 5, you usually can do a little bit above 5, so try and get it to 13.5. Yeah, 5, that's the estimated. It'll always be less. So from there, you can just hit export. It'll save right to my desktop right when it's done. And that's that. That is the basics for cutting an actual clip in Premiere on your main source. It really is that easy. It's just kind of listening and finding the time codes. Now, for me, this clip is going to go specifically to YouTube. It could go to Facebook. It could go to LinkedIn or any other social channel going directly onto your website. And that is just an upload. Now, from there, I'm going to go back into this clip and find 60 seconds or less shorts to try and find for TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, because that's what people like to listen to these days. If you have a podcast on video and you're not doing that, you know, it's going to be more difficult to find an audience. Not impossible, but more difficult. My most success I see is on TikTok. As of recording this, my TikTok fully has gotten over 110,000 views. And that's because I go back and edit these clips very, very detailed. And I'll show you how to do that once this render is finished, once this export is finished. And then, yeah, we'll jump into it. Okay. So another useful thing you can do before we actually get into TikToks for clips is if you want this to be on a separate file. So as you can see up here on my timeline, I have another project. This is that clip as well. And you can see the cuts in there already. I did to save time. The clips, the shorts are already cut. So there's one here. There's a second one here, and there's a third one. So in order to do that, you're going to want to file, new project. Like I showed you in the last one, I'm going to choose location. And for this one, I'm going to go to my How to Podcast series. So How to Podcast. This is episode 7. This is Talking with Tarashuk edit files. Talking with Tarashuk clips. And I'm going to save it here and then rename it example 01. Hit create. And now we have a brand new sequence. So from there, I'm going to drag this over. Again, this is just the sequence. This is, okay, good. This is linked. Now, this is just my in and out sequence because I did the cut before with the razor tool. You can drag it over. Let's just call this example 01. I'm going to copy it, save. Then from there, I'm going to right click and do new sequence from clip. And that's going to add a new sequence onto your timeline so you can go back and forth. And then see how it's double audio? I'm going to delete. I already copied it earlier, so I'm going to paste. I'm going to copy it again. So actually, let me go back into here. I'm going to drag a box, copy, and then paste. I probably also could just delete that other audio, but just to be sure there's no mix-ups, that's what I like to do. And then bam. You can just save this as, you can export and do the exact same thing. That's his preference. You know, sometimes I do it on the actual full podcast because it saves me time. But for something like this podcast in particular, I plan on switching out these graphics. So see how these colors are talking to Tarashuk graphics? When this gets released on the APS main feed, I'm going to swap out these colors. So in order to save me time later, I'm doing it on a separate file. So I can go into this file that's saved as and just edit this one. So time-saving measures of the like. But for cutting clips, I'm going to show you how to do that and do subtitles. So this is my actual clip. Now I'm going to cut some shorts. Now I have a template saved for how I do shorts. So I'm going to open that for you right now. That is in APS storage. That is in podcast. That is in Talking with Tarashuk. And then YouTube Shorts and Instagram template. Now what this is, you can see the box is already set for 16:9. I believe that is in your sequence settings. Yes. So if you go to your sequence settings, I make this 1920 by 1080, it'll do it back to 16:9. Well, this was in 9:16. I already had that as a template, so I don't need to do that again. So I can actually go back to, does my podcast need editing? Right, here's my clip. I am not going to do the lower third because of TikToks. This can be a little confusing and makes it too small to read. So I'm going to say screw that. I'm going to hit copy, Control C, go over here, Control V. I'm going to double click so you can see this box. I'm going to get rid of the black space. I'm just going to make it bigger. So I only see me. I can move it over and make me a little bit smaller so I'm actually in frame. And then bam, there is the basis for my actual video. From there, I'm going to go to the text file, go to transcripts, and this is from my old clip. So from there, you can either hit the 3 dots and go retranscribe sequence, or there'll be something there to just say transcribe sequence. So hit transcribe. It says, what is this, a 16-second clip, 17-second clip? It shouldn't take too long. Bam. There it is. From there, you're going to hit the CC, create captions. You can do single or double. I leave this as a default. It doesn't really matter to me. You can play around with it and see what you like to do. But I like to do double spacing for my subtitles. So these are your different projects. And if you look at this symbol right here, it's like a chart or a grid that can open your sequence back up. So as you can see, my subtitles are there, but I can't read them. You know why? Because I got to change the fonts. I got to change it for Talking with Tarashuk graphics. So I'm going to drag a box around all of my subtitles. I'm going to go to my Essential Graphics panel, go to Edit, and this is where you can edit your subtitles. So the first thing I'm going to do, change the font. My font for Talking with Tarashuk is Playfair Display. I have it starred, so I can always know where it is. Nudister and Inter are stuff I do for other projects I edit. So Playfair Display, just hit click. I'm going to make it bigger. My default font is 70. I want to add a background, so I'm going to drop this down. So as you can see, right, even if when I change the color, I like to edit these so I can just make them more legible. Again, you can play with this and do it however you want, based on your podcast, your graphics design, and whatever. Get rid of shadow. Don't need that. Put on a background. Make this at 100. So you can actually read it. I can actually read it. It's a little bit better. I'm going to put the extra background at 5%. So you can see it just creates a little bit of a buffer. Let's put it at 50. So I can make a point. So see how it creates an extra border around the letters? That looks ridiculous. That's too big. I used to do 10%, but then I actually found a happy medium at 5. Again, you can change that however you like to do. I'm going to add a stroke, make this a 1, and go in the center. You're going to see why in just a second. Now, the color, the fill. There's probably a few different ways you can go about doing this, but for me, I do my Talking with Tarashuk orange. I can go, actually, I don't have the orange actually in here, but I do have the color code saved right here. Right, so the orange, brown, tan, light blue, and black. I'm going to take the orange, and I'm just going to paste that in there, and bam, now it's orange. So I'm going to drop this down so my text and my video actually see, so you can actually now read, and it's over here. So it's easier to edit. Last thing I'm going to do, since TikTok and YouTube Shorts kind of have some things on the bottom of their screen, I need to raise my subtitles, so I can go here. I can center them. I can go left. I can go top. I can go top right. I can do whatever I want. I can make it left aligned. I can make it right aligned. I can make it dead smack. That looks really silly. I can do that. I can center my text. I can lower my text. There's a lot of different functions you can actually do. you could edit your, what is this? Is this tracking? Tracking. So it's like tracking makes more space in between your letters. So let's say I put this at 100. See, that doesn't look so good. I can put it at 10. I just keep it at 0. You know, doesn't bother me. If I want a little more space in between my lines, so the first line, second line, this I believe is leading, right? Come on, help me out here. Leading. So let's say I wanted this at 5, right? Creates a little more space between my lines, so it's a little easier to read. I'm going to keep that in there. But where I want these, send it on the bottom, and then this is your X and Y tool. So if you want to do it a little more custom, I'm going to bring it up to about there. So it's kind of like in the middle of the screen. It's still readable, but it's not in the way of like my face or anything. So now I need to edit the actual subtitles. So Adobe will auto-generate your subtitles for you, and you got to go back in and edit them. The lucky is clip's only 17 seconds, so you're lucky. You as a podcaster, do you need editing? Now, a big... So see, do I need editing now? Do you need editing? That's where the question mark should go. So grammar can always be a little rough. I need a capital N. Throw in a comma now. A big theme. Theme to this podcast has... I also mumble, so I got to fix that. A big theme for... This should not be capitalized. This podcast has been P. Either it's personal, professional. If it's personal, I mumbled. What did I say? This podcast has been P. Either it's personal, professional. P. Let's do a period. Either it's personal or professional. Period. If it's personal, maybe. If it's professional, maybe. So period. Professional, comma, most, and then make this a lowercase m. I use caps lock, so I'm sorry if my typing is a little weird. If you're doing a professional podcast for your business, you're going to want to pay for editing. Either do it yourself, or pay a staff member to do it, or pay someone like myself or Christian to do it. You as a podcaster, do you need editing?
It can be a little tough with... Stop. It can be a little tough with names, so... Either pay a staff member or to do it, or pay someone like myself, or it should be Christian to do it. And that's it. From there, I'm going to go back to sequence, render.
You as a podcaster...
I love it when it's fast. And you can go back and watch it. So I like to edit through here, but I always go back and watch it through here and try and find mistakes, because it does happen. From there, export... Actually, no. Whoops. Let me actually save. This is my template, right? You never want to overwrite your template. So I'm going to save as file, save as, go back to podcast, Talking with Tarashuk, go back to podcasts, how to podcast, episode 7, edit files. This is a short, which I just dragged and dropped. So let me drag this back. Short. This is my first one. So I'm going to call this, who should and should not have editing for their podcast. Save. So it's a new project. I'm now going to go over here and rename the sequence. When I do that, you can see it changes up here. So when I go back here and try and cut the second clip, I'm going to need that template open again. So podcast, Talking with Tarashuk, boom, and here it is. So that's just so I can differentiate and keep it all organized. And then from there, I export. And here's title. So it will automatically go back to the last one. So I'm going to go to podcasts. How to Podcast, Episode 7, Talking with Tarashuk Graphics, Shorts, hit save. And then for this, since I have subtitles, right? So here's the video. I need to match the source. Luckily, it's only 45 megabytes. That's pretty cool. But in order to put captions on your video, you need to go to the drop-down for captions. It's going to be none. If you're on your time, see a preview here. If you don't see your captions, they're not going to get exported. You're going to go to the captions. You're going to burn captions into video. and then hit export. And then it's rinse, wash, repeat. But that should pretty much sum it up for you. That is how I do clips. It takes a long time. You know, this was an hour. Oh, that's where I screwed up. So this is an hour. That's going to be a 2-hour podcast. This is probably going to take me about a week to do. About 3 to 5 business days to fully go through and cut clips. I'm probably going to get close to, well, I can actually tell you. I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 long form clips specifically for YouTube from this podcast. From there, I'll average about 2 to 3 shorts per clips, about 30 to 40, if not more, shorts for TikTok, Reels, and YouTube Shorts. And that's my process. That is how I edit podcasts. Now, from here, when I export, this is more distribution, which I'll get into another day. But for now, that's how I do clips. Hope it helps. Like, share, subscribe to Talking with Tarashuk feed, or wherever you are watching, if it's the Ambiguous feed. And yeah, that's it for me. We're almost done with this podcast. Let's go back to it. Christian, hope you're ready to finish this stuff up.
All right. And that's everything that has to do with editing. I hope we didn't confuse you too much. I hope we helped. I hope video editing is something you do for your podcast. If you need me to go crazy and cut clips for you like that, I do that. That is something we offer at APS or Cube Recording Studios. We are editors. That is what we do. It is a lot of fun for us. So if you need help with that, or hopefully that video can help you, teach you how to do it yourself and save some money for anything else, APS offers, including equipment and all that fun stuff.